Well, in terms of law firms, I've worked mostly for personal injury firms. I did a lot of years at Daniel Condo's law offices, which is a competitor to Hupy and Abraham, and then I came on board here in 2007. So pretty much that's been my professional career as an attorney, is working in personal injury. Probably the first time I thought about being an attorney, a friend of mine had applied for law school, and I thought, it sounded like a good idea, but I always then thought back to what I had done in the past, just about how I was able to argue, negotiate, get people to do things in some ways that you want them to do, that's good for them, but maybe they don't think is good for them initially. So there's a lot of persuasion in how I could get people to do things for me or on behalf of themselves without them thinking it's good until you can convince them to it. And I had an aptitude for it, I think. So it never was that I always wanted to be a lawyer. My father wasn't a lawyer. I didn't have a family history of being a lawyer. It was more something that, based upon my skill set, it seemed like a good thing for me to do. And then as I came out, never really knew which type of law you were going to get into. Basically, it was the first job that I was offered that I liked. And I just found it as a niche that I worked well at. The advantage to using Hupy and Abraham is the one thing is we're always going to be aggressive on their behalf. And that is, if they want to have a day in court, they can have their day in court. A lot of other law firms, and we'll get clients from other law firms that say, I think you have a good case, you could win, but we don't want to take it to court because there's expense involved with court. There's time involved with doing it. And that's what we're equipped to do. Just our sheer size, the ability to have a big staff to help somebody in handling their case. I think that's where we become more of a benefit and why we've grown so much over the last, well, at least the years I've been here, but I could tell from when I left the previous firm I was at and then came here, I could see the number of attorneys has doubled from when I was at my previous firm. So obviously, and that firm downsized and doesn't do a whole lot of work. So where else does the work go? Came here. Well, the ideal client, and I would say the bulk of what we do now is litigation cases, so cases that are in lawsuit. And to explain, a lot of people think their case is always in a lawsuit, but cases kind of have two phases. You can settle it without filing a lawsuit, so settling with an insurance company with our help, of course. Then there's cases where you have to file a lawsuit, meaning it's actually in the court system. And that's where the client has to be a little more cooperative to a certain degree. In the first phase, they're just seeing their doctor. They're getting their medical treatment. When it's done, we send something into the insurance, we talk, try to get it settled. If we can't agree for one reason or the other, and the two reasons are, it's not our fault, the insurance company says, or maybe it is our fault, but, well, your injuries aren't the cause of the accident, it's something else. That's when we need the client to help out on the case. And the ideal client in the litigation phase, and that's the harder part of any kind of personal injury case, is that they keep their appointments with us, keep us updated as to where they are and their phone numbers, as silly as that sounds, but sometimes people just don't, they think, well, I know I moved, I forgot to give you my phone number. You've probably had friends, the same situation, where they move and they say, why haven't you called me? You change your number, I don't know where you live. So just keeping in contact with the attorney, and we will talk to them as long as they understand the process. And we try to keep them informed step by step through the process, how to do that. It's an interesting design, and being I've worked at another firm that it was different. You can see in some situations an attorney takes the case from the beginning and runs with it the whole way. Here it's more of a team effort. You have these different levels of assistance. The investigator helps process the the property damage part of the case. The legal assistant will talk with the client on a more daily basis, and then we as the attorneys help when we're needed. So in negotiating the property damage, in dealing with the medical side of the case, and then going to trial and helping them make sure they present themselves in the proper light and make sure that they follow through with all the different advice that we are able to give them and help them to help themselves, really. I mean, we focus on having the client's case is the case. We don't try to tell them how to do things or where to do things. That is, we don't refer them to doctors. We don't tell them what they need to do. The main thing is get better. Go to your doctors and get better, and that's the main thing that they should do. Hard part sometimes is for people to get into doctors, and that's kind of where we step in and say, you gotta see your doctor, otherwise you really have no case. My wife Jenny and I have been married, it'll be 17 years this year. I have 3 kids. My daughter Megan is 15, which means this summer we'll be practicing driving, which will be a treat. Then I have 2 boys, Cole, who's 13, and Jackson, who's 9. So they keep me busy when I'm not here, which is a fun thing. But what I like to do is stay active. I golf, I still play softball in some leagues. I work with the kids on their different events, more so with the boys. My daughter's into dancing, and I'm really not that good at that. But the boys like sports, softball, golf. We play basketball. Anything to, especially this week, getting outside.